Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer. It is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today, I wanted to continue a series on the Harvest Challenges, looking at the ones that I consider in the middle. If you're going to go for 24 out of 40 challenges in this league, you're going to need to do most, but not necessarily all of these. Now, I've already covered in my guide to getting 12 challenges, the 13 or so challenges that I feel are the easiest ones to do in this league. I'm only going to recap one of those, and that's because it's one that I think a lot of people going for 24 might need a couple of tips to do, but won't have any trouble actually doing it. Of course, feel free to deviate from this. If you feel like, say, some of these are a little bit too grindy and you'd rather do one of the economic challenges instead, then by all means do that. The details of how to do some of the challenges that are missed in this will be in the guide to 36. So, I'm going to start by discussing Defeat the Conquerors of the Atlas. This is the first one that wasn't in the guide to getting to 12 challenges. And the reason for that is you need to kill Cirrus, the Awakener of Worlds, and that fight is genuinely quite difficult. So Cirrus is the end boss of the Conquerors of the Atlas expansion. You will first be able to encounter him at the point that you acquire your 20th Watchstone, 2-0. Then all you need to do is beat him down. He's going to take a bit of practice and a fair number of deaths if you're learning the fight. I've done guides to the lesser 4, but because Cirrus is very determined, very much dependent upon you having a solid internet connection, I've not been able to record a guide for this. I can't do the fight deathless with my current internet connection setup, so for that reason I haven't put out a guide to it. The key thing to note though, the key thing that a lot of people have trouble with in the Cirrus fight, if you're trying to work it out yourself, is that every time he teleports, he has essentially used the player skill dash. It respects the direction that he was facing. So if he is standing, let's say he's standing where my character is, and he is facing towards 8 o'clock on a screen, and actually let me just show you where my character is. So if you're standing where my character is, facing at 8 o'clock, and then he uses that skill, he won't just go to a random location, he will go straight forward like that. So that's the tip that a lot of people need to be able to beat Cirrus. The other thing is that you can fight him on Awakening level 0 if you want. That will make the fight considerably easier. You will get less loot, but you know, that it's better to beat the fight than to fail it. Next up is turning divination cards. I did discuss this in the guide to 12, but I feel a lot of people that are going for 24 won't know the right divination cards to go for, especially in solo self-found. There have been divination card challenges that have been very solo self-found unfriendly in the past. This is not one of them. Every single one of these cards, every single one of these options, there is an SSF friendly option to go for. So firstly, Essences is easy. Any map that has 3 bosses naturally, such as Val Pyramid, Val Temple, Racecourse, City Square and the like, all of these will drop the divination card 3 voices. On average, according to Slippery Jim, you get about 0.45 of this card per map that you run. That's based on his analysis from running 100 of the City Square map. He got 45 of the 3 voices div card. So this one's really easy. Just basically run 10 maps that have got 3 bosses. You've probably already done this without trying. For the gems, your best bet is the divination card, the Summoner, and this drops in a lot of indoory themed maps. It drops in the tower. One thing I will point out with this is make sure that you have the Summoner divination card on your loot filter. It's by far the most common of the divination cards that will work here. The other one that comes up a bit is there's a divination card that drops from one specific rogue Exile. If you're delving a lot, that rogue Exile shows up a lot in the delve mines, and from memory it's either a 21-23 summon skeletons or a level 1 23 quality summon skeletons, or maybe it's a level 21 Val summon skeletons. It's something like that. It's a minion themed gem, and it's every single delve encounter where the boss is 6 rogue exiles will have that rogue exile. So that's the other option that's really gettable there. For an influenced item, you can't go past the Siege map. Siege map drops a divination card called the Lord of Celebration. This is a pretty common drop in my experience. It's like not super common. It is rarer than 3 three voices, or the one I'll get to for a 2 implicit Crangled item. But it drops a fair bit, nothing unreasonable to get. Duel, do summit maps, get the divination card that grants a Jewel of Potency. This drops a lot, and it's actually quite useful to turn in as well, because you can craft quite potent jewels with that. You've got the most difficult to get individual mod on a lot of really good jewels. Prophecy is a more tricky one. Here you can go for Exile's Prophecy, which drops a lot from Blights and from Metamorphs, and basically anything that gives a Prophecy reward has a good chance of dropping the card of Exile's Prophecy. I've not yet got a set of 3 of them in this league, but it's not rare. Alternately, you can go for the Divination card for a 5-link Prophecy, which is in the Crystal Ore map. And for a 2 implicit Crangled item, your best option there is to turn in a set of Arrogance of the Vaal. This drops in the Sunken City and Ancient City maps, and it's not uncommon. It's not super common either. You're going to need 8 of the card, and basically you're just going to need to run 20 of those maps. If just assuming that you're just using Alchemy Orbs, maybe as few as 10 if you're using Sextants as well as Chisels and Elks. Then you will get yourself a set of 8, and you'll be able to turn them in for a 2 implicit Crangled unique. Alternately, of course, if you're in a trade league, you can just buy any of these. And if you are in a trade league, the influenced item one, there is the divination card that grants Jewelry of Farul, is a good option for your influenced item there. Okay, Harvest Encounters 4 is really simple. This requires you to do every single tier 2 encounter of the various seeds that can spawn. So, for instance, Primal Chimeral Grain is a blue, is one of the tier 2 blue ones. Primal Viper is a valuable one. That's the one that grants critical modifiers. This you will just get by accident if you're engaging with the harvest mechanics at all. None of these are particularly rare. Although you do need all 15, and it can be a pain to get the very last one, you will be running enough of these that you'll have no trouble with it. Achieve Ascension. So this requires you to run a couple hundred maps in order to get flagged for the Eternal Labyrinth. Solo self-found, you're going to need to find all 6 trials yourself, and on average, in my experience, this takes about 250 maps. Alternately, you can speed this up a lot in trade just by joining the channel's Global 820 and or Trade 820. And then people will often say, hey, I've got a Burning Rage trial. You go in, you do it, and leave me the offering to the goddess. That's a usual deal people will say at this point in the league. That'll help you speed up your flagging process. Then, of course, you've got to be able to beat Azaro in the Eternal Labyrinth. He's no slouch, but if you're going for 24, you're not going to have any trouble. You might not beat him first try, but you'll be able to do it. Use Infused Currency is an economic one. Now, these Infused Engineers Orbs are a new thing that was added, and they're acquired by using one of the Tier 3 Harvest Seed upgrades to change an Engineer's Orb into an Infused Engineer's Orb. This is semi-rare, but it's not staggeringly rare. You won't have much trouble getting 2 of these. Additionally, these are really interesting in that they seem actually to be quite powerful. I know that when I've used an Infused Engineer's Orb on a Diviner's Strongbox, and for the purposes of the challenge, and it gave me 6 stack decks in addition to raising the quantity of the Strongbox up to 30%. Sorry, quality up to 30%. Additionally, it caused the Strongbox to have 3 packs of magic monsters. So all around it was a really quite juicy Strongbox. I then used another one because I was in the Temple of Atzoatl, and my Temple of Atzoatl had the Tier 3 Strongbox chamber. Tier 3 Strongbox chamber is the only place in the game that you can get Tier 16 Cartographer's Strongboxes. At least the only one I'm aware of. They don't spawn on maps above Tier 12. So I also used an Infused Engineer's Orb just to see what would happen on that Cartographer's Strongbox. And I ended up getting an 8 mod Tier 15 map, in addition to a bunch of other stuff as well. So that wasn't really worth it, given that I paid 20 Chaos for the Infused Engineer's Orb, but it does give a sense that there is a special loot table for these. So I'm keen to see what I get when I actually get around to doing one on an Armorer's Strongbox. Just haven't done it myself. But if you're in a trade league, just buy the Engineer's Orb and keep it in your stash and wait until you find a Diviner's Strongbox. Diviner's Strongboxes pop up about once in 100 maps in my experience, so they're genuinely rare, but they're not staggeringly rare. If you want to speed them up a bit, Ambush Scarabs and Zana's Infused Ambush will speed that up. For Facetors Lenses, this is where you've got to sacrifice a corrupted gem, and you will get the ability to add experience to a skill gem or a support gem. Now, skill gems and support gems, most players tend to think of these words as, tend to think of skill gems as being inclusive of supports. That's actually not the technical terminology in the game. So a skill gem is a gem that is not a support. So yeah, basically any gem that isn't a support, something like Ball Lightning, whereas a support gem is a support. Yeah, so you'll need to earn 2 Facetors Lenses is the key thing there. So that's just meaning that you're going to need to use a number of the gem craft, a number of the gem crafts, and waste a couple of Arlobs. Okay, Complete Encounters 4. This is all about using Zana's map mods. So the key one here is Harbingers. You will encounter metamorphs in random gameplay. They're in 1 in 10 maps on average, and so you'll see that I've done 44 of them. Presumably done some. Oh, I think I've done quite a bit more than 500 maps, but I've only got 44 here, probably because I haven't killed metamorphs in every map. I've just been like, oh yeah, I can't be bothered. Next map. Harbingers are the ones you're going to need to force onto maps somehow. They don't spawn naturally. Now, the first way to do this is through your Zana map mods, and we'll just quickly go and bring those up. Might help if I click on the game client. So on the map device, you will unlock this, I believe, at 120, maybe it's 110 Atlas bonus. And what it will do is, each time you use this ability, it will cost you 4 Chaos Orbs, and it will cause 2 Harbingers to spawn on the map. This is legitimately worth doing. It was much better value back when Exalted Orbs were in the 205 Chaos range, because you get Exalt Shards sometimes doing this. But even with Exalted Orbs at 140 Chaos as they are now, every Exalt Shard pays for 1 3/4 uses of the Harbinger mod. Every time that you get Ancient Shards, you tend to be doing pretty well as well. So yeah, that's a good option. Your second option is using Harbinger Scarabs, and your third option is using Infused Harbinger. This is something that you will get sometimes from sacrificing maps with one of the, I think it's a tier 3 Harvest Craft. This will come up quite a bit. There'll be an option to sacrifice a map to add an Infused Anarchy Craft to your map device. Sacrifice one to add Infused Rampage or something like that. These, they cost you the map instead of costing you Chaos, and they do more than the normal versions of that mod. So they're definitely worth your while. They're lots of fun as well, because it just makes the map absolutely packed with monsters to kill. So the next one I'm going to put in comes with a warning. This I'm adding for Trade League players. I mentioned that I'm covering 28 total, so if you're going for 24, you can skip 4 of these, and if you're in solo self-found, skip this one. So, complete Harbginer Encounters. Here you need to do a few different things. You'll need to complete a normal beachhead and an infused beachhead. The beachhead unique map is something that you can get in 2 ways. The first way is from Harbinger rewards for things like delirium content. Harbinger rewards tend to be pretty rare, but they do come up. And I think I've had 2 or 3 beachheads this league that have dropped. Looks like I've had 2. So these have dropped for me as is. I believe, I'll just check what their quality is. Yeah, they've dropped as is, because I would have qualityed up any map before I Harbinger Orbed it. So these have dropped as is. This map is a lot of fun, and it will have a particularly large boss fight at the end of it. The second way that you can get these, if you don't get the lucky drops, is by sacrificing a Harbinger unique item. in the harvest system, and the third way is by using a Harbinger's Orb on a normal map. You'll have a 20% chance for that map to turn into a beachhead of the same color. So if it's a yellow tier map, you'll get a tier 10 beachhead. If it's a red tier map, you'll get a tier 15 beachhead. You should always use your Harbinger Orbs on tier 11 through 15 maps. You'll just get better value that way. So, complete the beachhead. You will also need to combine Harbinger pieces to create a unique item. At the end of each run of the beachhead, you will receive a Harbinger piece. These are fractions of a unique item, and they need to be basically put together like a jigsaw puzzle in your inventory. It's a really clunky and ugly system, but that's what it is. So it is not a vendor transaction. It is actually a compile these items as a jigsaw in your inventory. So you'll need to find, for instance, the first piece of directions and the second piece of directions and the third piece of directions. That will then get you the Harbinger Quiver. Then, once you've done that, you'll need to complete the Infused Beachhead. Infused Beachhead is the newly added tier 16 version. It's much harder, but it is not unreasonably difficult. The combat encounters there are perfectly reasonable for someone that is level 90, 4 times ascended, and has a little bit of experience. It's certainly easier than the harder endgame fights like Uber Elder, but it's probably in line with fights like Shaper or Elder. Or, Shaper Elder, harder than Uber Izaro. Then you will need to upgrade a Harbinger unique item. When you complete the Infused Beachhead, you will receive a scroll linked to one of the Harbinger unique items. You will then need to apply that to one of the complete unique items. So with all of this in mind, the Harbginer Encounters section, this is very doable in a trade league just by virtue of the fact that you can buy an Infused Beachhead from another player. It will drop the scroll, and then you can buy the 3 pieces that match to that scroll. So if you got a scroll that upgrades the belt, which is the best option, you would then buy all the pieces of the belt from other players. You would then assemble them yourself, and you would then get the upgrade. And then all you need to do is just run a low tier beachhead, which is easy to get your hands on. So that's why I've got this in 24. But by all means, skip it if you're in solo self-found. Next up we have Harvest Encounters 5. This is a challenge to do all of the tier 3 seed encounters. And these, here you will have an issue where your last one will take a while to find. I know it took me ages to find a wild vulture. What's it called again? There's a vivid vulture bulb. This one took me ages to find, but they're not particularly rare. None of these are particularly rare. Just some of them will be the last ones that you'll encounter. However, you will get plenty of tier 3 seeds just by clearing out your tier 2 seeds. So you will fill this up in time. It's just going to be a matter of time. Explore the Atlas is all about playing the game and running a wide variety of different maps at high tier. You will essentially get this one without trying if you run 300 or more maps after getting your 32 watchstones. So that's it's a fair amount of grinding, but if you're playing efficiently, you'll get this easily. Now we have a much smaller grind, level 90. There is no way that you'll get Explore the Atlas done and not have a level 90 character. Level 90 is something that used to be a significant milestone for the sort of players that go for 24 or 24, but nowadays it's something that a good number of people that are going for 12 or 24 will actually get. I know that this was the 12th challenge that I completed this league, and for many people it'll be their 13th, 14th or 15th. Just depends on what you go for. We're going to skip this hard modes of bosses one because the hard modes are actually genuinely very difficult on that. Next up we have Defeat Harvest Bosses. So these are the tier 4 seeds. This is much more reasonable than it might sound. You're going to need to do all 3, but there's only one tier 4 seed for each for each of the 3 colors. So there's only 3 bosses. None of these are particularly difficult fights. They're not trivial, they're not freebies, but all of them are what I would say they're easier than the Conquerors of the Atlas, although they'll be unfamiliar fights, and you might have some mistakes early on. But they're all manageable, and they also are ones that a lot of people are running a lot. If you're having trouble with these and you're in a trade league, there's people who are running 50 of them for an endgame grind challenge. So there's defeat harvest bosses. You can see I've only done 4 of 50 there. Haven't really been trying that hard with the challenges this league, but there's people who are running entire cultivated packs where they'll have 10 or more of a particular tier 4 boss, and they will sell in the channel Trade 820. They will sell a portal into their group where you'll then be able to fight the 10 bosses and just get credit, and that will give you credit for the harvest boss that you need as well. So that one's this one's actually, in my opinion, easier. Even though I got Harvest Encounters 4, this is sorry, not 4. Harvest Encounters 5. Even though I got Harvest Encounters 5 before I've gotten Harvest Bosses, I think most people will get them in the reverse order. You'll get Harvest Bosses before you find the 15th and final one of these. Now, one that I want to point out that I'm skipping is use Winged Scarabs. These things are expensive. Leave these for the people who are going for 36, and if you do come across a Winged Scarab in your gameplay, sell it to someone that's going for 36, because it will help fund your build. Next up we have complete map tiers. This is a standard issue grind. It's a bigger grind than the Explore the Atlas one here, which requires you to pretty much, because you will repeat maps, this is generally about 300 maps after you hit 32 Watchstones. This might be 700 maps after, oh no, 600 maps after you hit 32 Watchstones. Very doable if you're playing a lot. And remember that you can make a beeline to the boss. One last point that I want to make with this is that there is a lot of map over sustain in this league, and that means you can be really wasteful. You can open up a map, run to the seed cache, loot the seed cache, run to the map boss, kill the map boss, and leave, and not feel that you've wasted anything particularly valuable. You can do this on an Alchemy Orbed map. I wouldn't chisel them if you're doing that. Just elk and go. You can even be more wasteful and just transmute and go if you want. That's up to you. Last one that I want to say that you should do is complete unique maps. Here, you need to do 15 out of the 19 unique maps that appear on the Atlas of Worlds. Now, of these, there's a number that are genuinely difficult, and there's a number that are quite rare. So let's go through those. Genuinely very difficult Hall of the Grandmasters. This is essentially a PvP arena against the player characters of a number of people who basically pay GGG to submit a character to it. This map is brutal. This map is absolutely horrific. You generally will not be able to beat this unless you have a dedicated character or really know what you're doing in there. Most people that do this will simply have a dedicated character for it. That's by far the hardest map here. Next up we have the rare ones. Perandus Manor is genuinely quite rare. It's not as expensive as it's been in some previous leagues, and it's also available through 2 divination cards, so it's something that you can realistically do. The only ways that you can get this map in general gameplay are either through having Kadiro Perandus sell it to you. From memory, charges about 5,300 Perandus coins for it, or getting the divination cards, either the Mare or one of the other ones. Those will get you the Perandus Manor map. Then we have Doriani's Machinarium. This was extremely expensive in the last league. It's dropped a lot in price this league because the unique item that you always get in the Machinarium is no longer nearly as in demand as it was in the Delirium League. However, this drops only from Ahumatoili, or just call him Hakuna Matana, the Blind, the boss of the Vaal City areas in the Delve Mines. He is a boss that is very rare in depths 1 to 300, uncommon in depths 300 to 600, and then moderately common in depths 600 and up. He puts up quite a fight if you encounter him deep in the mines, but if you find him shallow, he's very easy. And I think he has about a 1 in 5 chance of dropping a Machinarium map. So it's pretty dicey to actually encounter this map yourself, but you will be able to get it from other players quite easily. Lastly, there's a couple of less rare but somewhat rare maps. Putrid Cloister, Coward's Trial are somewhat rare. Care Blade is a little bit rare. It's not really rare. It's just a little bit uncommon. And the Vinkdar Square is a pain in the ass to get your hands on because, especially in solo self-found, I would put this one out of the question. So if you're in solo self-found, what you should do here is skip Perandus Manor, skip Doriani's Machinarium, skip Hall of the Grandmasters, skip Vinkdar Square, do all the rest, but collect all your Agorod Staves, because the way you get Vinkdar Square is by vendoring Agorod South, Agorod East, Agorod North, and Agorod West all at once. That will give you a copy of the Vinkdar Square map. So if you then find yourself in a situation where you've got a Vinkdar Square set, then go and run that and skip one of the other maps that you'll see. I haven't made any attempt to fill in these holes, so I haven't traded for a Care Blade, but I haven't had one drop for me. I haven't had a Coward's Trial drop. The other thing you should do is pay attention to Zana's daily missions. She will often offer you an expedition into one of the unique maps, and that can be a really useful way of filling in these holes. I don't think she can give you an expedition into Perandus Manor or into Doriani's Machinarium, but that's fine, or Vinkdar Square for that matter. But that's fine. She can give you all the rest. Anyways, if you followed all of this, you could well have yourself 28 challenges. If you've got any comments or questions, definitely fire away below. And I will endeavour to have the 36 and 40 guide, which will look at the hardest 12 challenges, in my opinion, in the next couple of days.